extend lobbying time for 5 minutes because we're having a little problem. David needs to write down the whole resolution. He'd like you need a couple more minutes.
Sorry guys.
Just another problem. Just we'll have five more minutes and then we'll finally start.
Okay.
our conference. First of all, because we have almost half of us are first timers, if you have any questions about the procedure, if you're not like clear about anything, if you have any questions regarding the conference as a whole, just raise your placard and say point of information to the chair. So you can ask me anything. If you don't understand something, I'll give my best and try to explain it to you. Then I haven't said it. I haven't said it. Maybe you've noticed all the microphones and the cameras. We are not being. We are being filmed. Actually, we planned on live streaming. We are being live streamed right now, but it's a private stream, so nobody else can see it. Maybe we will look how well this conference or this committee will turn out, and then we'll see if we're going to publish it. But just don't worry. It's just like half the world is not seeing you right now. And then I'd like to introduce our gossip box. If you have any gossiping to do, if you want to write any nasty, not too nasty, but like any fun comments about other delegates, the admin, the good-looking co-chair, or something like that, just write a note, write gossip box on it, and just the admin's going to hand it into the gossip box, and at the end of the day, we are going to read out all the things which were said in the gossip box. Yeah, then at 13:40, 22:02. Yeah, we'll have dinner sometime after the day. I don't know exactly when. Lunch. Yeah, lunch. So we'll be giving you. Wo sind die hin, Alter? We'll be giving you lunch cards. Yeah, we'll be giving you lunch cards. You just go down and you can just go downstairs to the Mensa. You can have lunch for yourself. The food is not usually really good, but it's better than nothing, I guess. What? Yeah, okay, I suppose. So, now we're going back to the conference in itself. We'd like to remind you that we are traveling back in time to the year 1968, and that there's a different political situation in the world. Like it differentiates from the political situation we have today. Back then, there was a Cold War. There was this big fight between the Eastern and Western Bloc, between the Soviet between the Soviet Union and the United States of America. So please keep that in mind. And we're actually, we're traveling back in time, but we are trying to achieve different results which actually didn't happen in our real timeline. So we are actually looking to rewrite history. So, okay, you don't see the source in itself. We'd like to ask, we have now at hand, we have the resolution of the delegation of France. We'd like to know who has now co-submitted to this resolution. Just raise your placards. And Dave is going to write them down. Oh, that's a lot of work. Okay, and if you have any questions about the procedure, just raise your placards and say point of information to the chair, and I'll try to explain any questions you have and try to answer them.
Quick point of information is the Geneva Protocols. It's just a typo.
Where?
Mindful of the provisions and accords.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have any if you see any grammatical issues, just
Point of information.
Yeah.
Could we maybe turn off the light? That would be really helpful. I forgot.
Do you guys want to turn off the lights? We can have a voting procedure.
Second.
If it's back by any objections, you don't want the lights turned on? Okay, we can turn off the lights if you want.
Thank you.
Okay, the guys who's co-submitted, raise your placards. And we'd like to remind you, now it's if you have a question for me, you can sit down. But if you have a point of information to the speaker, we'd like you to stand up, okay? If you have a question. Yeah, we're all being polite here, Soviet Union. Okay, we will now commence a debate regarding on the topic of the Vietnam War and how we can stop it. And we'd like the main submitter of the resolution, France, to hold a speech about the resolution as a whole.
Would the chair like me to read out the resolution as well?
Yeah, we'd like to read out the operative clauses, not the preamps. The operative clauses.
French Republic is aware of its colonial legacy in Indochina and saddened by the fact that 14 years after the Geneva Convention and granting Vietnamese independence, Vietnam is not lit by the enlightened flame of democracy, but rather by gun flashes and explosions. The accords set out in the final declaration of the Geneva Convention have been repeatedly violated by regular and irregular forces of the communist Viet Minh regime in the north, and escalation of the conflict has proliferated to the point that the United States of America feels obligated to protect, by force, the national integrity and security of the Republic of Vietnam from northern communist aggression. Every day, we are reached by news reports highlighting the awful reality of a guerrilla war fought in a country with over 40 million people, and the privations endured by a civilian population exposed to the daily horror of war. We hear daily of atrocities like mass killings, torture and public executions, committed in singular cases even by American combat troops. It is the firm conviction of the government of the French Republic that a United Nations intervention is indispensable for a peaceful and lasting solution to this issue. Honourable delegates, let us forget just this once ideology and come together to avert this destabilizing humanitarian atrocity that reaps lives as we speak. Merci pour votre attention. Nous sommes ouverts pour des questions si vous en avez.
Thank you, delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Oui, yes.
So now you have the opportunity, if you have any questions, raise your placards, and you can ask him a question regarding resolution or his speech. Okay, seeing as there are none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair.
Would the chair not like me to read out the resolution?
Oh, sorry, I completely forgot.
Merci. The Security Council of the United Nations reaffirms the authority of Article 51 of the United Nations Charter in regard to the legal status of the warfare conducted in and by the Sovereign Republic of Vietnam, which states inter alia that nothing in the present charter shall impair the inherent right of an individual or collective self-defense until the Security Council has taken the measures necessary to maintain international peace and security. Secondly, strongly urges the United States of America to suspend offensive military operations in aid of its ally in favor of a combined United Nations peace effort. Thirdly, calls for an international convention banning the military use of substances such as napalm A and B and rainbow herbicides in light of the humanitarian and ecological impacts their usage entails. Decides upon the partition of Vietnam into two distinct state entities along the 17th parallel, as agreed upon in the final declaration of the Geneva Convention of 1954. Recommends a popular referendum on the Vietnamese question when and if regional, international and Vietnamese national security and stability so permit. Mandates the deployment of an international peacekeeping force to the area of conflict tasked with A. Establishing a demilitarized zone along the 17th parallel. B. Contributing to a de-escalation of the conflict by disarming Vietnamese irregular units. C. Protecting the sovereignty of each Vietnamese state within its respective borders. D. Thereby acting as a deterrent to a resumption of hostilities. 7. Directs the Secretary-General, the Economic and Social Council, subsidiary UN agencies and offices and appropriate NGOs to remain in readiness and provide such aid to civilians and UN peacekeeping forces and other on-site UN entities as the Security Council shall request. 8. Mandates the convention of an international conference with the aim of cementing in a legally binding nature the independence, integrity and neutrality of both Vietnamese territories and state entities. Thank you for your attention. If there are no points of information, we shall give the floor to the chairs.
Are there any points of information? Can you raise them? Yeah, Japan, you have to recognize.
Does the delegate of France have an option or an opportunity to prohibit the use of chemical weapons?
As the Republic of France has stated in their resolution, the Security Council would convene a conference regarding the nature of biological and chemical weapons in warfare. That, I believe, is laid out in point 3, calls for an international convention banning the military use of substances such as napalm A and B and rainbow herbicides.
Okay. Thank you.
Are there any more points of information on the floor? Okay, seeing as none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair.
So you.
Great resolution, by the way.
Thank you.
Okay, so we are now in open debate on this resolution as a whole. If you wish to speak in favor or against this resolution as a whole, please raise your placards high now. Now you also have the opportunity to hand in amendments.
There's nothing special about it.
We said support this resolution. Do you know what I see?
Okay, seeing as there's no one. Okay, United States of America, you have been recognized, followed by the Soviet Union. You can go and speak. You just have to go. Yeah, thanks.
As a delegate of the United States, I totally agree that this resolution is the only option we have, as in our opinion, the savior of lives is the main goal we want to achieve, and a war will diminish human rights and further lives will be lost, and that is not our ultimate goal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Yes?
Are there any such on the floor? Soviet Union, you have been recognized.
The delegate of the Soviet Union wants to ask the delegate of the US. You said that you don't want to kill people, but weren't your troops the one who went into a village with hundreds of unarmed civilians and just shot them because you were frustrated?
I think it wasn't the will of the US government to have done such an act, as the US government is totally for human rights. I think it was the act of soldiers acting upon their own will.
Okay.
And we don't fully support this.
Okay,
You're not permitted to ask any more questions. You have to request a follow-up, then you are permitted to ask another question.
Request a follow-up?
Granted.
Thank you. So, as the delegate says, you weren't aware of the fact that these soldiers will kill these people, but shouldn't they be punished? What will the delegate do to punish these people who killed children, men and women, who are all unarmed, who hadn't to do anything in the war?
I think this will be followed by legal integrity, and the thing is, the United States doesn't really know which soldiers did the act, you know.
Your soldiers.
You're not allowed to answer directly. I'd like to sit down. Once again, great speech. We'd like to remind you to not use any personal pronouns. You have to speak of yourself in third person. And France, you have been recognized.
Does the delegate of the United States of America not agree to the fact that jungle warfare can sometimes be difficult and civilian casualties are the regrettable yet necessary, the regrettable yet unavoidable consequence of a civil war or a guerrilla war in a foreign country?
I totally agree, and I want to add to that not only the United States genocided people in a way that it wasn't humanitarian acceptable, but also the Vietnamese did, and we need to do a two-sided argument, not a one-sided argument.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate. Once again, we'd like to remind you that you are not permitted to use personal pronouns. Soviet Union, you have already had your point of information, it will not be granted. You can take. Okay, Sweden, you have been recognized.
Thank you. Isn't the delegate of the US aware of the consequences of sending thousands of soldiers to the south of Vietnam?
Yes, we are aware, and our ultimate goal was to diminish the spread of communism in Asia, and that's why we sent troops to Vietnam.
What to reply?
Granted.
But also, the delegate, isn't the delegate of the US also aware that by sending the troops, you're not ending the war, you're just supporting
Objection.
one side?
Yeah.
This is not a factual point of information and violates the rules of procedure of the United Nations.
Yes, we'd like to. If you have any if you have a point of information, you have to formulate your question. You have to formulate your saying as a question. Okay. So you have to have a direct question. Like you can have a normal speech, but then have a question at the end. That's important.
Well, an objection is always realized.
Okay. Thanks. As you've been after so long, we don't want another point of information you can take back to your seat. And we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair. Thanks. If you don't want to you can specify if you want how many points of information you want to entertain. So if you only want one point of information, if you only want one question asked by another delegate, just say, yeah, we are open to one point of information. We are back now in open debate on this resolution. Soviet Union, you have to recognize.
The delegate of the Soviet Union supports the second part of the resolution. Could we maybe just show it, please? So it says that we strongly urge the United States of America to suspend offensive military operations in aid of its ally in favor of a combined UN peace effort. We support that. Like the delegate of the Soviet Union already mentioned, the US attacked a village with unarmed civilians, which is not acceptable. Many hundreds died. Also, you had many attacks like the Operation Rolling Thunder, which was granted by Lyndon Johnson, who was supported by John F. Kennedy. So, yeah, we support this point, the second one, that the US should not overreact, and just the delegation of the Soviet Union is not amused about the fact that they just kill people randomly.
Thanks for the speech. Is the delegate open to any points of information? Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that we yield the floor back to the chair. Okay, now we'd like to discuss the first clause of this resolution. So we'll be giving you 2 minutes reading time on this on the first clause, and this time you have time to read it, and then you can put on amendments, or if you have anything to strike or add, yeah, you can head in the amendments. The admin will pick it up, and yeah, we will discuss it. So now you have 2 minutes time. debate flow, so it would be great if you hand in amendments or just have a speech on this clause as a whole. Great. So,
Who
the
handed
union.
the amendment? Who handed in the amendment?
We have no amendment. We're just forcing someone to have a speech. Okay, so Virginia, you have to recognize.
Okay, fine.
Just on the end of
Yeah. You have an amendment?
No, I've got a question.
Yeah. Okay.
The chair that the Historical Security Council allow notes to go in other committees, councils?
Okay. Yeah, that would be granted.
Thank you.
Well, we encourage you to create amendments. Then write notes to any delegates outside of this committee. Japan, you haven't recognized.
The delegate of Japan would like to speak in favor of the resolution.
Yeah, that would be great.
The delegate of Japan thinks that this resolution would be a great addition to the already existing treaties that concern Vietnam and its areas. The delegate of Japan also thinks that it's very important to continue to try to make peace in the affected areas.
Thanks. Are you open to any points of information? Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair.
A point of information to the chair.
Yeah.
Can I hand in an amendment for the first degree or third class?
Yeah, you can hand it in. Just get that and you can get it for us. Thanks. So, das machen wir einfach, oder? Okay, we will not be entertaining an amendment to the third clause. We'd like everyone to entertain an amendment on this clause as a whole. If no one wants to speak in favor or against this clause, we will just be moving into voting procedures to see if
Has
this...
anyone questioned or asked to remove that clause?
Erst zu uns, nicht abhauen, erst zu uns.
Wir müssen erstmal sehen.
Uh-oh.
We're not supposed to write nasty things, okay?
Censorship!
It's not nasty.
I'm not going to read it out.
Thank you.
Okay. You're not supposed to do that. Good. I guess you can if you want to. But that won't be granted. So there's no one wishing to speak in favor or against this clause, and there's no amendment sent in. Then we'll be moving into voting procedures, but we'll have to wait for the delegate of Polish People's Republic, as he's in the toilet, and it will be necessary to conduct the vote. So you can already right now look at at the second clause if you want to add in any amendments. Ah, there he is. Great. Okay, we will now be moving into voting procedures on this clause as a whole. Would the House please come to order? We are now moving into voting procedures on this amendment, on this clause as a whole. Anyone wishing to vote in favor of this clause, raise your placards high now. Okay. With an overwhelming majority, this clause passes. Clapping is not in order. Clapping is not in order. It is in order? Okay, it is in order. You can clap, guys. Okay, then we'll be moving to the second clause. Does anyone wish to make a speech in favor or against this clause as a whole, or does anyone wish to entertain an amendment? Franz, you have recognized.
Honorable assembled, the French Republic recognizes the noble intent that the United States of America has in waging a war against without meaning to sanction or conflict on the war that the United States of America, the armed conflict that the United States of America is currently waging in the region of Vietnam, the French Republic feels that a United Nations effort would be more constructive and also more legal with an unquestionable legality under international law. We thank you all very much.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair. Okay, we're back on open debate on this clause as a whole. Does anyone wish to speak in favor or against this clause as a whole? Come on, guys, I believe in you. Do I hear any seconds? Are you wishing to pass an amendment? Okay. Just then you can write the amendment and then we'll discuss it, okay? United States of America, you have been recognized. You have a question?
The delegate of the United States is offering an amendment that that the US will.
We suggest that if you have any amendments, write them down, hold them up, and the admin will come and pick them up.
Oh, wait,
And then we'll write them down.
And you've got like sheets where you can write the amendments on.
Don't be shy, it's great if you pass in amendments. Yeah. Just the language is English, please speak in English. Thanks.
And let's say we agree, are we just allowed to like say that we support the point or?
Now you can make a speech and then say, yeah, we support his standpoint because of that and that. Yeah. Just raise your plackets and you'll be recognized. If you do not have any ideas for this second clause, just look at the next clauses and see if you can like make any amendments or make a speech in favor or against.
During our speech?
If it's a formal question, then that is possible. If not, then you can just ask me directly.
Yeah, I'll decide individually on the question. It depends on the question itself. But I think usually it will be granted, yes.
Okay.
No, you don't get that usually. It's not strictly parliamentary procedure.
So, Australia, you are writing an amendment right now? Okay, great. You don't have to stay up, the admin's coming for you. It's fine. That's why you have admins. Thanks. Okay, the delegate of the United States of America has passed in an amendment, and it reads, the USA will stop military operations in Vietnam if Vietnam will agree to stop following communist ideas. Which are following communist ideas?
That's never gonna happen.
That is not amendment, that is a positional stance. We'd like you to change anything in this clause as a whole, to change it like in its saying. Yeah, Soviet Union, you have been recognized. You want to entertain a speech?
No, the delegate wants to say it down to the point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go on.
The delegate of the Soviet Union understands that the delegate of the United States wants to get rid of the communism. We, as the Soviet Union, think it would be better if we could vote, if the country could vote if they want communism or not. It's not just possible people want it. And you're doing everything but not getting through with no communism.
Thanks. Is the delegate open to any points of information? France and the United States of America, in that order, you have to recognize.
Does the delegate of the Soviet Union not realize that communist states do not have a great record of voting neutrality when it comes to democracy?
Everything is possible?
Request for follow-up?
Granted.
What is the Soviet delegate's stance on the famous quote by Joseph Stalin that it does not matter, it does not count who votes, but rather who counts the votes?
The Soviet Union just wants to mention that the US tries to get rid of the communism since years and even put leaders in Vietnam, yeah. And the people don't like him. They do not support it.
Request for a second follow-up?
Not granted. States of America, your point of information? We'd like you to speak. We'd like you to stand up.
You can see your speaking time in favor of another delegation.
The delegate of the United States totally agrees to France as as I really favor the idea of France, and additionally the United States is actually open for voting, as we support democracy and free speech, and every human being in Vietnam should be able to follow the regime they want to follow.
The delegate of the United States knows that if you want to get rid of the communism, there will be war, because we will not just surrender.
Yeah, but that's not.
You have to request follow-up.
Request follow-up.
Granted.
The delegate of the United States really, I want to. The delegate of the United States wants to ensure that democracy is, or the democratic and free speech of every human being is granted, and through war people will be hurt, and that is not the will of the United States.
The United States will is not given. You kill people. You have different operations that use chemicals that kill a lot of people, animals. It destroys land. You can't tell the delegate of the Soviet Union that you try to get the human rights right. It's wrong. I don't know. We all
Request follow.
Not granted. We won't entertain any more points of information. And we'd like the chair. Okay, the Soviet Union can make a little speech.
If the United States of America continues with this dangerous and war-mongering rhetoric, bad things might happen to its citizens and Thank you.
Thank you. If we'd like to remind you, if the delegations of the United States of America and Soviet Union want to conduct a vote in Vietnam, we suggest that you hand in an amendment containing.
Point of parliamentary inquiry: such a vote is already foreseen in the resolution.
Okay. Thanks, delegate. Which point is it? Which clause?
Subclause. Hang on. I think it's point 5. Recommends a popular referendum on the Vietnamese question.
Okay, thank you. We'll be talking about this later then. So now we've actually been handed in an amendment by Australia to the first degree, and it reads to change the clause to strongly urges the USA and the Soviet Union as well as the Allies to suspend offensive military operations in aid of its ally in favor of combined UN peace effort. So, can you guys read the? Can you guys actually read what is said here? Okay, great. So the chair is setting 3 minutes in favor and 3 minutes against on this amendment as a whole. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this amendment? United States of America, you haven't recognized. Okay. Personal privilege.
I would like to go to the bathroom.
No problem.
He doesn't know where the bathroom is. Should I show it to him?
That would not be in order. You can look in your book. Look in the booklet. There's a plan about the building.
Maybe it's better if I show it.
So we're at point 2 now.
Yes.
Point 2, and we're discussing an amendment handed in by Australia.
Can we? I can't read it.
You can't read it.
You can't read it?
I forgot my glasses. No, I can't read it.
Maybe change the color.
Should we change the color? Or maybe we can move to the font if you want.
No, it's okay, but I'll get in the metallic clause of my glass, but can you just read it out loud, please?
Okay, I'll read out the whole clause, okay?
Yeah.
Strongly urges the United States of America and the Soviet Union, as well as their allies, to suspend offensive military operations in its ally in favor of combined UN peace effort. And this amendment to the first degree is submitted by Australia.
Okay.
The chair is setting 3 minutes in favor and 3 minutes against this amendment as a whole. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this amendment? Please place your placards high now.
Motion to move into time against the amendment.
Do I hear any seconds?
Second.
Second? Okay, no objections? Okay, then we'll be... Oh, you've been... Okay.
Yeah. I want.
Yeah, okay, if you want to speak... Sorry, I didn't recognize you.
Favor,
Yeah, okay, if you want to speak in favor, just come here. Sorry, I didn't recognize you.
So the delegate of Sweden is convinced that not just the USA, but also other countries are supporting different sides in Vietnam. And by doing that, they support the war as well. So they keep up the war and the fights. So the delegate of Sweden is convinced that it's not just the USA by sending the troops, for example, but also other countries. And the war gets worse and worse. So every country should start working together for the war to.
Thanks, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information? Soviet Union, you have been recognized.
The Soviet Union understands your point, but the delegate wants to ask you how you want to ensure that there's still peace and that not one of the countries just attacks the other one. I mean, he's not here. I can't take it on him. No.
The delegate of Sweden is convinced that if there will be a war just from one side, from the USA side, there would have been fighting the North, say the South against the North, and the North would have been fighting the whole time without they fighting back.
Okay.
But I think because also all the American troops are getting killed, I'm pretty sure it's from both sides.
Amendment to law.
Request for follow-up? Yeah. Granted. Please stand up.
So, as a delegate of Sweden just mentioned, American troops are getting killed. The delegate of Soviet Union wants to ask you, doesn't always civilians and even our troops die? So isn't it like my troops got attacked as well? I saw a movie.
What
is the movie?
On parliamentary inquiry, does the Soviet Union have troops stationed in the territory of Vietnam at the moment?
A few. It wasn't the film. No, sorry. Let me to.
Request for follow-up.
Right of reply.
Right
of reply, sorry.
Right of reply.
Right of reply.
Yeah. The delegate of France made an important point. While we don't have military stationed in the country, still USA has troops stationed there. So they are, in that case, the stronger one. They can declare war to us and be ready already. The Soviet Union would say that the US troops have to go out of Vietnam because otherwise it's unfair. That's what I think so.
The delegate of Sweden understands your point and agrees with this point.
Okay, thanks, Alec. Are you open to any more points of information? Are there any such in the house? Okay, seeing as there are none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair. Yeah. Do we have any more delegates wishing to speak in favor of this amendment? Do I hear to second to move into time against? Okay, we are now in time against. Fans, you have been recognized.
Honorable Assembled, the delegation of the French Republic recognizes the intent and the noble motivation that that motivated the delegate of the Kingdom of Sweden to promote such a point. However, we feel that in the interest of justice, certain points must be mentioned, namely the first fact that there has been no evidence of Soviet military personnel involved directly in the conflict in Vietnam or Indochina. Secondly, in response to this resolution, the delegation of the French Republic would like to point out that Clause 6, subclause B, mandates a de-escalation of the conflict by disarming Vietnamese irregular units, such as primarily the Viet Cong, which are alleged to have been armed by the Soviet Union and communist elements in China. We feel that this clause in the resolution effectively counters the problematic nature of the issue proclaimed by the delegate of Sweden, and therefore we feel that this amendment to the resolution is redundant, rather, and also grammatically incorrect. Thank you very much. We're open for points of information if there be such in the House.
Are there any such in the house? Point of information? Yes, Soviet Union, you have been recognized.
Like, you say that the contributing de-escalation of the conflict by disarming Vietnamese irregular units. How do you want to ensure that then the USA won't take it for granted and just like attack the North side?
The French Republic feels that the United States of America is an honorable nation, and that any such attack is contrary to international law and shall result in a sanctioning of the United States of America before the United Nations. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Polish. No, who are you? GDR, you have been recognized.
Wouldn't the delegate of France agree that a neutral party would be best? Sorry, what?
Excuse me.
Wouldn't the delegation of France agree that a neutral party would be best suited to, for example, disarm both parties so that they could ensure that both parties would agree to would actually fulfill their promises?
Indeed, the French Republic would agree to this fact and would like to point out to the German Democratic Republic that point 6 mandates the deployment of an international peacekeeping force which would be under the direct supervision of the Security Council, which I would assume is a neutral and balanced conference within the United Nations. Furthermore, it would be under the official supervision of the Secretary General, which would be a neutral voice within the United Nations, this Council of Justice. And therefore we feel that this peacekeeping force, supervised by a neutral entity within the international community, serves as a proper and regular institution in this case. Very much.
Soviet Union, you have been recognized.
The delegation of USA mentioned that the Security Council is neutral.
Excusez-moi, we are the République Française. French Republic.
What did I say? I said
You call us Americans.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We decide to overlook the insult.
The Soviet Union excuses herself. I didn't want to be rude. The delegate of France mentioned that the Security Council is neutral, but isn't the Security Council not in favor of communism?
The Security Council may well be neutral, but that does not mean it violates common sense and democratic appeals. Thank you very much.
Okay, are there any more points of information on the floor? Okay, seeing as there are none, we suggest that the delegate of France yields the floor back to the chair. Okay, does any other delegate wish to speak against this amendment as a whole? Second, okay. Time allocated for debate on this resolution, on this amendment as a whole, has elapsed. We will now be moving directly into voting procedures. Admin, please suspend note passing and secure the doors. So, anyone wishing to vote in favor of this amendment as a whole, raise your placards high now. In favor, yeah. Okay, you can take him down. There will be no personal conversation between. If you're arguing, please go up and have a speech. Then you can argue against. Okay. Anyone voting to wish against this amendment as a whole, please raise your placards high now. Okay, that will be granted.
In the interest of common sense.
In the interest of
We'd like the delegate of France to reason the use of the veto rights. Please could you come up and speak? Just a short speech.
Honorably assembled, the French Republic would like to neither sanction nor condemn the United States military action in Vietnam. However, we feel that this amendment added into the resolution distorts the facts. In the interest of neutrality and international justice, we must argue that the Soviet Union, there is no current evidence of the Soviet Union being involved in the Vietnam conflict. And it would be in their best interest to argue that they are not. Therefore, we feel that in the interest of common sense and international justice in this great institution, the French Republic must exercise their right to a veto in order to remain on the basis of factual information and not distort this conflict through ideological reasoning and wild claims. Thank you very much. Both points of information that is up.
Okay, Japan, Soviet Union, and GDR in that order, please.
Doesn't the delegate of France think that it would be best for the Vietnam situation right now to pull out every foreign interactions with the country and then maybe send in other UN-approved councils there?
Yes, that is exactly what the Republic of France is arguing for. As you can see in multiple points in our resolution, we have argued for a demilitarized zone, a de-escalation by disarmament of Vietnamese units, and also a neutralization of the international policy towards Vietnam and coming from Vietnam. We have argued for an international conference and for United Nations peacekeeping troops. Therefore, we are the exact embodiment of a neutral opinion on this subject. However, we must argue that this amendment does not adequately mirror the factual information that the French Republic and the international community has on foreign involvement in the Vietnam conflict.
Right to reply.
Granted.
Doesn't the delegate of France think that it would be possible that the Soviet Union would withhold such information due to self-preservation?
The Republic of France is aware of the fact that many arms and financial support from communist states, including the Soviet Union, is given directly to the Viet Cong rebels. We condemn such actions very strongly. However, we feel that this is not a defensive military operation, as is implied by the wording of this amendment. Therefore, we feel that although a neutralization of the conflict is necessary, it would not be correct to imply that the Soviet Union is waging a war with troops on the ground as the United States is in this conflict.
Not granted. Soviet Union, you're up next.
the delegation of the Soviet Union understood the clause wrong. We vote in favor of the veto of France.
GDR?
Wouldn't the delegate of France agree that even though Soviet Union isn't sending military personnel to Vietnam, they still financially support the North Vietnam side, and this means that the war would still prolong. So actually disabling so urgent to actually stop all support. Wouldn't you agree that that would actually stop the war?
The French Republic agrees that the Soviet Union is directly funding and supplying Viet Cong rebels. We condemn and strongly despise these actions, yet nevertheless, this is not an offensive military operation, as is implied by the amendment. Therefore, we feel that the wording is grammatically incorrect and implies a direct military involvement of the Soviet Union. As a delegation of the German Democratic Republic can note, this resolution further down in the 6th clause mandates the disarmament of Vietnamese units, thereby rendering the military aid that the Soviet Union is giving them obsolete and contributing to a de-escalation of the conflict in a way that the Soviet Union cannot reply to. Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Are you open to any more points of information, if there are any such on the floor?
No.
Okay, then we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair.
We do so.
Okay, with France using its veto right, this amendment does not pass. Clapping is not in order. Yeah. Yeah, granted. So I think we're entertaining another amendment right now from Australia to change the clause to. Was ist denn das? Ach ja, bist noch nicht fertig? Okay, just give us a minute. We have to write it up. Ist es fertig? Australia to change the clause to strongly urges the United States of America as well as the allies to suspend offensive. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. Strongly urges the United States of America as well as their allies to suspend offensive military operations in aid of its ally in favor of a combined UN peace effort. Sorry, I forgot that you have no glasses on. Yeah.
The Republic would like to include that amendment as a friendly amendment and therefore bypass.
So you got this as a friendly amendment, right?
Yes.
Okay. Does anyone? The chair is setting 3 minutes in favor and 3 minutes against on this amendment as a whole. Does anyone wish to speak in favor?
The delegation.
Oh,
What
sorry.
is it? What is it?
What's the
Yeah?
change?
You got a question?
Well, as a friendly amendment,
It doesn't immediately pass,
right? It immediately
Okay,
passes.
sorry.
Can the what is a friendly?
There is an inferred phrase, strongly urges the United States of America as well as their allies to suspend military operations. That's it.
It doesn't change meaning of the clause, right?
Das ist kein das ist schon mal sowieso das ist kein
Okay.
Das ist automatisch.
May the House please come to order. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor or against this clause as a whole?
Motion to move in time.
Oh, yeah. Motion to proceed to voting.
Okay, do I hear any seconds?
Second.
Yeah, well, now we'll be moving directly into voting procedures. Anyone wishing to vote in favor of this clause or amendment as a whole, raise your placards high now. We'd like to remember the P5, the permanent 5 members, that they have the right to veto. Okay, with an overwhelming majority, this this amendment passes. Clapping is in order. Yes, guys. Oh.
It was an overwhelming majority.
Point of parliamentary inquiry. Are there
Yeah.
currently any amendments pending?
Are there currently any amendments pending? Okay. I think then we'll be moving into discussion on the third clause as a whole. Friends, want to speak up?
Okay.
Do you want to say anything or?
Okay. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, sorry, Japan, you can speak up if you want.
Thank you.
So now we'll be the second clause has passed. We'll be discussing the third clause. If you want to speak in favor or against, you have the opportunity, or you have the opportunity as well to hand in amendments.
Honorable chairs and delegates, the Republic feels committed to the United Nations effort to promote human rights worldwide. In light of the huge ecological and humanitarian disasters that we have witnessed through the usage of chemical agents such as Agent Orange, rainbow herbicides, and napalm, A and B versions, the French Republic feels compelled, in the interest of international peace and also the promotion of human rights, that these weapons be abolished on an international scale, and that the further usage of these weapons is not permitted in international warfare. The French Republic feels that these weapons, above all, have caused extreme suffering and also huge ecological damage to the country of Vietnam, and therefore we feel that it is in the interest of the international community to debate on the usage of these, the further usage of these weapons on the international stage of warfare. Thank you very much. We're open for points of information.
Japan, followed by the United States of America, you have to make it nice.
Wouldn't the delegate of France like to explain the specific procedure in forbidding those chemicals during warfare?
Certainly. The Republic of France proposes an international convention on the prohibition of chemical agents in regional and international warfare. That would be legally binding under international law.
Granted.
And how would the delegate of France deal with illegal trade or usage of chemical weapons?
These would be seen as a violation of international law and sanctioned as the Security Council or the General Assembly sees fit.
Thank you very much.
United States.
As a delegate of the United States, I think that uses of such weapons should be allowed, as, for example, the Second World War was only ended by the use of these weapons. And
that is nuclear weapons, not chemical weapons.
Yeah, but still.
If you have a following question, request for follow-up.
Request for follow-up.
Granted.
The use of these weapons allows countries with huge powers like the USA to ensure that conflicts in the whole of the world stay to a minimum, as these weapons ensure that US citizens are saved through our massive powers through these weapons.
Okay. Does the delegate of the United States realize that despite the very large-scale usage of such weapons on the Vietnamese population and positions of the Viet Cong and National Vietnamese Army, the military situation in Vietnam is far from being contained and stable. Therefore, the argumentation of the delegate of the United States that these weapons promote international peace and security and the military objectives of the United States military does not necessarily sound logical in light of recent military developments in the Vietnam area.
Granted.
As a delegate of the United States, we think that the use of these weapons need to be, we need to use these weapons in war regions to ensure that US soldiers are harmed from real damage to their health. And that's why we use these weapons to ensure the safety of our soldiers.
The delegate of the French Republic can not realize the argumentation of the delegate of the United States of America due to the fact that these weapons are causing massive humanitarian atrocities throughout the afflicted areas that they're used, and also have a large negative impact in the ecological area. But nevertheless, we resignedly accept the viewpoint of the United States delegate.
Okay. Is the delegate open to any more points of information?
Yes.
Okay. Soviet Union, you have recognized.
The delegate of the Soviet Union feels attacked by the sentences the United States mentions, and we want to say that we are prepared for a war. We have nuclear weapons, and if he will attack, they will attack, we will attack back, and there will be war.
The French Republic is intrigued. The French Republic is intrigued by this argumentation that basically says that you are prepared to defend human rights with nuclear war. But nevertheless,
You have to let him speak.
we support your viewpoint on the ban of these weapons.
Stand up and it's granted.
We don't say that we want war, we just say that if the United States of America attack us with nuclear weapons, we are ready and we will fight back. And if they will attack us... Excuse me?
As is the right of every sovereign nation.
I know, we didn't say that we will attack them, we said we're just prepared, and if there will be attack, we will not just sit there and let our citizens die, we will attack back and there will be no hope.
The French Republic is aggrieved by this very determined and militaristic point of information, yet nevertheless we urge the two countries to communicate about the differences privately and in a bilateral confrontation, and not in this hall of peace and justice that is about the implementation of human rights.
Thank you, delegate. Are there any more points of information in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair. We'd like to remind the Soviet Union that the declaration of war is actually out of order. We are the United Nations. We are trying to achieve world peace.
The delegation of the Soviet Union didn't declare war. She just said that if the United States of America declares war to the Soviet Union, we will fight back.
Okay.
That's not a declaration of war. That's just a warning.
We want to prevent any further conflict. We are actually trying to stop this regional conflict in Vietnam. We are not aiming to build a bigger war. No, you can't speak, not granted. Does anyone else wish to speak in favor of this amendment as a whole? Please raise your placard sign now. Okay, seeing that there's no one else wishing to speak in favor of this amendment as a whole, we will now be moving into time against. Does anyone wish to speak against this amendment as a whole?
Motion to move to voting procedure.
Second.
Okay, that will be granted. We will now directly, okay?
I want point of information to the chair. I still want to explain my amendment about our
You want to hold a speech?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, just come up here. That's granted. Yeah. Okay, so Soviet Union, you have been recognized. Delegate of France, can you explain it to her?
A friendly amendment is when a delegation that hands in an amendment is accepted by the main submitter of the resolution as being complementary to the resolution, and therefore it is accepted without a vote into the resolution as a whole.
Thank you.
So are we supposed to vote on this now, actually?
No.
Okay.
No voting on it.
Okay. So, is the delegate open to any points of information?
Yes.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest us to give the floor back to the chair. Okay, we will now be moving into voting procedures on this amendment as a whole. On this clause as a whole. Does anyone wish to anyone wishing to vote in favor of this clause, please raise your placards high now. May the House be good. We are conducting vote. Placards high, please. Okay. With an overwhelming majority, this amendment passes. Clapping is in order. Okay, we will now be moving into debate on the fourth clause. Anyone wishing to speak in favor or against this clause as a whole?
Moderated caucus of 2 minutes. The delegate of France really needs to disappear for a quick moment.
Okay, that will be granted.
Wait.
Sorry, I need to do.
Don't trip.
In this time, you can already like set up amendments if you want.
Jedes Argument von uns.
Dann wird Sowjetunion suspended. Du gibst uns das immer. Wir müssen noch ein bisschen Recht und Ordnung aufhalten. Okay, guys. Guys. May the house please come to order, please. Time for the unmoderated caucus has elapsed, and we're now back in open debate on the fourth clause as a whole. Does anyone wish to speak in favor or against? No, I'm setting the chair setting 3 minutes in favor of this clause and 3 minutes against. Does anyone wish to speak in favor of this clause as a whole? Japan, GDR, followed by the United States of America. In this order, please.
The delegate of Japan thinks that that would be a very great solution for the current situation in Vietnam, since both of the parties would be able to pursue their own governmental ideals and would not have to interact with each other that much, and everybody would, and the governments would be happy, and then it would be easy to specify. Thank you very much. The solutions for the parts of the country.
Thanks, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Any and all.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair.
Dear delegates, the delegation of the GDR believes that it's quite evident that a united Vietnam is not going to work because both parties are very equally divided but have very strong opposing ideologies, and it would work best, as is mentioned in the resolution, that the
Delegates, chatting is not in order. Delegates, chatting is not in order. Please let him speak.
Is equally divided along the 17th parallel and is controlled by a neutral party who would be able to maintain peace and stability and to ensure that there isn't conflict. There can't be any intruders that move along the borders.
Thank you. Are you open to any points of information? Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair. United States, you have the floor. Yeah. And we'd like to remind you guys that you can always hand in amendments, so we have more stuff to debate about.
The delegation of the United States speaks in favor of this amendment, as it is in our favor to support peace, and human rights should be saved. That's why we support this argument. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Yes.
Soviet Union, you have been recognized, followed by Sweden.
Again, the Soviet Union wants to mention that you broke the human rights the moment you killed the civilians. The United States of America talks about human rights and how you want to encourage people to fight for it, but still you're fighting against it. You're killing people. It has nothing to do with the war. When you want to fight against that. It's not a declaration of war, it's just...
Yeah, just go to
I would recommend we should talk about this whole stuff, and I support the idea that we split the country, but you shouldn't talk about human rights if you can't even let some civilians live.
We'd like to remember the delegates to refrain from using any personal pronouns. You have to speak of yourself in third person. Thanks.
She.
The delegation of the US finds it kind of funny that that the delegation of the Soviet Union attacks us of not following human rights, as the USSR isn't that good in following human rights either. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry.
No, not granted.
Das ist persönlich, das ist persönlich. Das ist persönlich.
You're at your phone, okay? If you want to talk to him, don't be at your phone and please stand up.
Ich suche gerade ein Wort. Leugnen.
To deny.
Nein.
Sweden.
Is the delegate of the USA actually trying to bring peace in this war again by sending troops to Vietnam?
Ask for follow-up? Okay.
No, he has to ask for follow-up. You can just answer.
The delegation of the US decided to move into Vietnam to stop spreading communism. And it is in our interest that one state of the Vietnam, South Vietnam, North Vietnam are split up, as one is democratic and one is communist, just like in Korea. We follow the idea of
the delegate of Sweden understands your point that you don't want the communists to spread out everywhere in Asia, but the question of Sweden was if you actually bring peace to this country again by sending these troops and by doing that.
the delegate of the US thinks that the ultimate goal is to bring peace in every war, as every war is an action to ultimate change that will result in peace, and not every war is a bad war. That's my opinion.
Thank you. Is the delegate open to any more points of information?
Yes.
Okay, are you open to that? Are you open to that many? Okay, Japan, followed by China, followed by GDR, followed by the Soviet Union.
The delegate of Japan would like to remind every other of her fellow delegates to not just remember the bad things that happened in Vietnam, but also the support that the USA or the gave during that time and still during the time, and not to just focus on the bad things that happened. Thank you very much.
Totally agree.
Great. Okay, China, you're next.
What measurements will the US take on making sure that the 17th parallel is safe?
Measurements will be taken afterwards, but I think the act of ensuring that both countries will be split up is the action we need to take first.
Okay, who was next? GDR, I think, yeah.
I had a question to the chair. I read somewhere that Sweden supported the Viet Cong, and they announced their support in 1971, and this was 1968, right?
So this 1968, yes.
Okay, never mind that.
Okay, Soviet Union, you're up next.
So, as the delegation of the US mentioned Korea, but Korea works great. I mean,
North Korea, that's Korea.
so, does the US deny all the attacks that you laid violent hand on Vietnam? Do you deny it?
The delegation of the US thinks that we don't deny anything. We stand in World War for what we for the actions we did. But things happen in war that happen. As war isn't all about that the war in itself isn't about like the bad consequences that happen. It's about changing the entire, and I think the entire will always be, or most of the time will be positive.
Granted.
So the US said that in war bad things happen. But did the Soviet Union's army just shoot hundreds of people just random? Because I mean that happens in war.
Oh yeah. So you have to stand up.
Please stand up.
Yeah, you need to stand up.
Sorry.
And I'd like you to stand up as well.
Incident where you shot 20,000 innocent Polish civilians.
That's not right now. It's about Vietnam, not about Poland.
And we'd like to remind you, if he's replying to your answer, you have to stand up as well, okay? So just stand all the time. Now we can ask a question.
Shouldn't it should be our first goal to keep the citizenships like safe as possible, and not just we don't talk about Poland right now, but like safe as possible and not just shoot them. This is a war between the Soviet Union and USA. It's not a war between Soviet Union, USA and Vietnam. Vietnam has nothing to do. It's just the land that we're fighting about. And it's not okay to just shoot.
Point of inquiry, is the Soviet Union directly fighting in Vietnam and
No,
regionally fighting with the United States directly as a sovereign entity?
Is he allowed to do that?
Yeah.
Actually, he's not allowed to do that.
The point of the Soviet Union is that
You have to reply to him, not to the delegate of France,
the point of
okay?
the Soviet Union is that the US, she has the delegate has the feeling that the delegate of the US tries to let everything look through a pink glass.
What?
Pink glass.
Das ist eine deutsche Redewendung. Das sagt man
The
so.
delegate of the US thinks that it's kind of ridiculous that
Stand up when he's answering to you.
that the USSR blames us for murdering and killing people.
You have to request a follow-up.
Actions of war that are that are linked to war as the only that a consequence of war is death, and death shouldn't always be
As you are the biggest troublemaker in here, it is not granted. Just sit down. You can hold a speech later. Okay. Seeing as there are no more points of information in the house, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair. Usually, delegate of the United States, when you have to yield the floor back to the chair, you just say, "I yield it." Okay? Thanks. Okay. Time of debating in favor of this clause as a whole has elapsed. We are now moving in time against. Does anyone wish to speak against this clause as a whole? Please raise your placards high now. Okay, we will now directly be moving into voting procedures. Anyone wishing to vote in favor of this clause as a whole, please raise your placards high now. With an overwhelming majority, this clause passes. Clapping is in order. Okay, we will now be moving. Okay, I'd like to remind you guys, we have a gossip box. We want something funny to read at the end of the day, so just gossip a lot about the other delegates. Don't be too nasty, but you know, we want to have a good laugh at the end of the day. GDR, and we need amendments. GDR, you have been recognized.
Question, who can actually decide the partition of Vietnam?
The Security Council, we can do anything.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
That's like the highest power in the UN, you know? Okay, so we are now... the chair has said 5 minutes in favor of this clause as a whole and 5 minutes against. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this clause, please raise your hands high. Now, France, you have been recognized.
Honorable Assembly, the French Republic is joyous at the fact that this resolution has enjoyed so much support from all parties and all sides involved in this conflict and in this issue. We feel that this fifth point is the heart of an integral deal on the Vietnamese question and has already been laid down in the Geneva Conference of 1954. We further consider this clause specifically to be the key in solving the dispute and the conflict between the separate Vietnamese sides in allowing each government, each regime, each ideology to have its own separate territory where they can evolve peacefully. We thank you all for the support you have given to this resolution and ask all delegations to support this amendment in particular in order to provide for an efficient and pacific settlement of the Vietnamese question. Thank you.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Yes.
Japan, you haven't recognized.
Doesn't the delegate of France think that is already contained in the fourth clause, which was stated before?
Yes, we consider that this point especially is important because it paves the way for an eventual unification of the two Vietnamese entities if popular opinion demands it. We feel that despite the separate involvement of the two state entities, the common will of the Vietnamese people will bring them together again, and therefore this integral part is necessary to settle an eventual territorial dispute and a popular conflict of ideology that may arise in the Vietnamese area if a reunion is not conjoined.
Write your reply.
Wanted.
What does the delegate of France has planned if the two countries evolve differently and one is further evolved and further mechanized than the other, and then joining them together again would result in an economic crash for both countries?
Well, seeing the way that communist countries develop economically, we think that it might not be in the best interest of a direct conjunction of the two states, also in the interest of democracy. However, we feel that every system should be given its fair chance to crash, and therefore we feel that this is the most democratic and equal way of realizing the separate ambitions of the two different regimes.
Write your reply.
Granted.
So does the delegate of France mean that a crash of the economy of two countries affecting their people would be tolerable?
We consider it necessary, and we further consider that this is not a question to be resolved in the Security Council, but by popular vote of the Vietnamese people. We shall see how current events unfold and develop, and reach conclusions accordingly.
Thank you very much.
GDR, you haven't recognized.
The delegation of the GDR wonders what kind of majority would be required for a result either in favor or against, or in favor of a communist state or a capitalist state.
The specifics of the vote are too minute to be mentioned in this resolution, and we feel that this issue should be addressed when and if the time comes. We further consider it not the responsibility of the Security Council of the United Nations, but rather an intergovernmental panel set up by the Vietnamese people to ensure that the democratic rules are kept and a favorable outcome to the Vietnamese people is reached.
Thank you.
Japan, you haven't recognized.
What does the delegate of France think about the voting station? Does he think that it should be done by just delegates from Vietnam or by outsiders, by foreigners who have a neutral view on
the view of does the French delegate assume that correctly that the Japanese delegate means the supervision of the vote?
Yes.
Yes. Then the French delegate reiterates that this resolution does not deal concretely with the minute details of the referendum on the Vietnamese question, but furthermore opens the possibility for such. The French delegation is of the opinion that certainly a UN mission to ensure that democratic institutions are upheld would be of benefit in this scenario, because, no offense, but the communist states do not have a great democratic record when it comes to voting. Therefore, we feel that a UN involvement securing a neutral and democratic outcome of the vote is essential.
Granted.
First of all, the delegate of Japan doesn't think that if communist countries would act like a democracy, they would not be called communist countries. And second of all, doesn't the delegate of France think it would be better to declare the details now in case such reunion happens that could happen fast?
The delegate of France feels that currently it is not realistic to discuss the terms and conditions of a Vietnamese national referendum due to the situation, the military and humanitarian situation in Vietnam at the moment. For a referendum to be held, the French delegation thinks it indispensable that firstly a security and stability and a general satisfaction of human rights and basic humanitarian needs of the Vietnamese population is met before one can safely discuss and realistically discuss the possibility of a Vietnamese referendum.
Thank you very much.
Are there any more points of information in the House? Sweden, you have been recognized.
When does the delegate of France think this could happen or this would happen?
The delegate of France certainly expresses his hope that one day Vietnamese national unity is achieved through a democratic effort. Yet at the moment, we can only see that the military situation is not stable enough for a referendum to be held. Certainly, the French Republic expresses its hope that one such referendum can be held in the future, and we remain confident that democracy and peace shall find their way in Vietnam.
Request to move into voting procedure.
We are now in time against.
Second.
Questioning into voting procedure would actually mean moving into previous question. That would actually mean that we would be moving in time against.
The Soviet Union is...
Firstly, we would like to yield the floor so
Yeah.
open.
We are now moving into time against this clause as a whole. Does anyone wish to speak against this clause as a whole? Now you also have the opportunity to hand in amendments.
Motion to move into voting procedure on the amendment as a whole.
Object.
Second.
For once.
There has been a
Objection. I want to explain something to her. And then she maybe wants to speak again.
Yeah, just speak out.
Can we just have a minute, please?
Do you have a question? Yeah.
The delegate of the Soviet Union likes to ask if we could have a minute to talk about this.
About what?
About against.
Yeah, we can set a time of unmoderated caucus if you want. 2 minutes is like the same, like the whole conduct of debate is suspended. You can
Objection!
Discuss. Okay, there's an objection. So we won't be moving into unmoderated caucus.
We can put it to the vote. We can put it to the vote.
Yeah, let's put it to the vote.
If someone
What?
The unmoderated.
Okay. We will putting up a vote if we move into unmoderated caucus for 2 minutes because these two guys need to discuss something. Anyone wanting to conduct unmoderated caucus right now? Raise your packets high now.
Are you in favor of an unmoderated caucus of 2 minutes? No.
Yeah, 2 minutes.
Right? United States, you're not.
In favor. Okay.
Come on.
We are now moving into 2 minutes of unmoderated caucus.
Okay, if there's a random referendum,
Can I go to the
vote?
Yeah, you can go to the toilet.
A communist regime or
Kann ich eine
communist regime.
Leitwaffe haben?
And the risk is that
Aber wieso nicht?
because there's so many communists,
Weil das der Sowjetunion helfen soll,
because like
weil die das verlangt hat.
even
Du bist gegen die
50-50.
Sowjetunion. Wenn
There's a
die
risk
irgendetwas
that
verlangt, was
either
ihr helfen
captures
würde,
or
dann bist du natürlich
Aber
dagegen.
wenn wir das widerlegen
The
können, das
risk is
was
for us
wir am
to
Ende
capture this
sagen.
regime.
Wenn wir widerlegen
Aber
können,
das Dings wäre ja schon,
So the risk is
abgesegnet.
that then we
Ja,
lose
aber trotzdem
the
könnte man noch
Es geht darum, ob wir das
and if there's a partition,
Und das Ding ist, wenn wir die
then we
Widersetzung
vote.
loswerden, würde nicht nachher nochmal, wenn das schon abgestimmt ist, darüber debattieren.
We enter war basically, and both parties
After the time for the unmoderated caucus has elapsed, I will just read out the countries and you just have to raise your placard. Okay, I don't have the countries right here. Nice. Okay, Australia. Yeah, that's why you're conducting a roll call.
You need trash?
We're just going. Okay, Australia, China, France,
Raison est déterminé.
Federal Republic of Germany, GDR, Japan, Polish People's Republic, Soviet Union.
It's here.
Soviet Union.
Okay, here but not actually. Okay. Sweden.
Yeah,
Okay.
here, sorry.
Sweden's actually missing. Why is Sweden missing? The United Kingdom.
Does Sweden have to do anything?
Huh?
Does Sweden have to do anything like last
No,
time?
it's conducting roll call. And United States of America.
They have to tell a
Yeah.
joke we had that last year.
What?
A joke. They have to tell a joke.
We'll have him have a speech, okay? Okay, joke is better. Okay, when he comes back, a joke is better. Anyway, we can still proceed with the debate as 2/3 of the quorum has been reached, and we can just normally resume with the debate. Okay, so we'd like the representative of the Polish People's Republic to speak against this clause as a whole, as a referendum would not actually benefit the spread of communism. And
possibly, if communism is such a great idea, the people will be totally
How
on board
about,
for
how
it.
about you don't
How about
ask to
there's no personal chatting? We'd like the delegate of the Polish People's Republic to entertain a speech, and after that we're going to hear a joke told by the delegate of Sweden. Sorry, you were a bit late, even though you got a...
Sorry.
Is it fine if you tell a joke? Really funny joke after the speech? As punishment because you came late? Yeah, just really funny joke.
What's the difference between a pigeon and a...
First, we'd like to hear a speech of the delegate of the Polish People's Republic. The floor is yours, Jan Robin. House, please come to order. Delegates, no personal chatting.
As the delegate of the Polish People's Republic, I want to say that we are against the referendum because the communism has to be supported. There's no reason for breaking it up.
Thanks for your speech. Once we would like to remind you to not use personal pronouns. You have to speak of yourself in third person, and we'd like to ask you if you are open to any points of information. Are there any such in the house? France, you have been recognized.
If communism is the broad will of the people and results in unquestionable democracy and prosperity for the nation, why is the delegate of the Polish People's Republic so averse to a democratic referendum on that issue?
I think a democratic state is not the state I would support, because I think the communism is seeing the people as every human is equal, and in a democracy I don't think there is that every human is getting equal.
Thanks for your speech. Once again, we'd like to remind you to not use personal pronouns. No problem, it's the first speech. Are you open to any more points of information? If there are any such in the house? Okay, I think not.
I want to go in front.
Okay. So we'll now be entertaining a speech from the delegate of the Soviet Union. Against this clause as a whole.
Dear delegates, communism is a great idea. Thank you. You have to imagine, here we take the example of Germany. They are born rich or poor, and when they are born poor, they mostly don't have a chance to make it in society. But if everyone is equal, and it has the same chances, and is getting the same paid the same salary, everyone can make it. And don't we want it that everyone is equal? This is a great idea. Thank you. No, I'm not open for any questions.
Okay, thank you. We suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair. Okay, thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak against this clause as a whole? Please raise your placard sign now. United Kingdom, you have been recognized.
The UK is against this clause as a whole because we think that if there will be a referendum, there will be only one winner, and the winner of the referendum, of course, maybe the whole country will be communist or capitalist. However, I think war will still be there because I don't think the people who lose are going to be okay with that.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
One.
Okay, seeing that there's not even a single point of information in the House, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair. Time of discussion on this clause as a whole has elapsed. We will now directly moving into voting procedures. Yeah.
Can I go to the toilet?
Okay, go. Can you just wait for a minute because we need to conduct a vote, then you can go. Okay, thanks.
Of course.
Oh yeah, we'll be entertaining a joke from Sweden after the vote. Okay, everyone wishing to vote in favor of this clause as a whole, please raise your placards high now.
Are there any abstains?
Yeah, abstentions are allowed.
Okay.
Okay, 3. Okay. Anyone wishing to vote against this clause as a whole, please raise your placards high now.
Yes.
Wie viel sind das? Okay. Any abstentions? Okay, with 3 votes in favor and 8 votes against, this clause will be striked and will not be a part of the final resolution. Clapping is not in order, though. Okay, now we'd like to hear a great joke from the delegate of Sweden for coming late at the end of the unmoderated caucus. Does anyone else want to tell a joke? Okay, we'll be entertaining a joke from the delegate of France.
What's the difference between a ladder and a communist?
A ladder works.
No. You can put the ladder against the wall several times.
Does anyone else want to entertain a joke? Not the Soviet Union, though. Okay, Australia, you have been recognized.
Why aren't women able to do boxing?
Do what?
Do boxing.
Why?
Because they have no right.
Okay, thanks for the joke, but we don't want any sexist or woman-friendly jokes being told, so please refrain from making such jokes again. If you have an unsexist joke, you can tell it now.
I don't think so.
You are not sexist jokes.
Okay. Soviet Union.
Okay, I don't know the joke, but I'll just read it out loud. A farm worker greets Joseph Stalin at his potato farm. Comrade Stalin, we have so many potatoes that piled on one top of the other, they would reach all the way to God, the farmer excitedly tells the leader. But God doesn't exist, replies Stalin. Exactly, exactly, says the farmer. Neither do the potatoes.
Didn't get that.
Okay, 2 guards spot a man sculling around the Oh my god, okay, no, I can't tell that. An American is visiting the Soviet Union. He's taking a train from Leningrad to Kiev and listening to his handheld radio when a Soviet man leans over to talk to him. You know, we make those better and more effectively here in the Soviet Union, he says. Oh, says the American. Yes, the Soviet man responds. What is it? Okay, I don't get it actually.
I think it's about the
Okay, I
Communist
think
choices are like communist societies.
they're not good, really. Yeah, but I'm not taking any political stance. Okay, House, please come to the order. Please come to order. We will now be moving into discussion on the sixth clause as a whole. Seeing as this is a really big and large clause. Okay, we will. We only have half an hour until we have break, so we will be discussing points A and B, and after the lunch break, we will be discussing C and D. Is that in order?
Yes.
Okay. So now we're in open debate on this, on the first 2 points of this sixth clause as a whole. Does any? I'm setting. The chair is setting 50 minutes in favor, 50 minutes against on this. Yeah.
15.
This big clause. Okay. As a whole, anyone wishing to speak in favor, raise your placket right now. Okay. Japan followed by the GD. Okay. We'll start with Japan and then we'll look. Okay.
Kind of person.
You have to go to the bathroom? Not really. Just go if you want.
The delegate of Japan thinks that the point A of clause 6 is a very good idea and that it would help a lot of people to find a safe place in their countries to just escape the horrible effects of people of the war.
Thank you, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Any and all.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair. Okay, who wants to speak next in favor of this clause as a whole? GDR, you have been recognized, followed by the USA.
The delegation of the German Democratic Republic believes this is the best and the only solution to the Vietnam War, and we hope that the unnecessary bloodshed will end with the partition of North and South Vietnam, or Vietnam, so that they both have a chance to pursue their own interests instead of having to fight each other over one country.
Thanks, Delegate. Are you open to any points of information?
Yes.
Are there any such in the House? Seeing as there are none, I suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair. Okay, you have the floor, United States.
As delegate of the United States, as the United States speaks in favor of a demilitarized zone, as this ensures peace and ensures the human rights of that every human is, die Würde des Menschen ist unantastbar. And this is our will.
Thanks for your speech. We would like to remind you that the official language of the MUN is English, but thanks anyways. Are you open to any points of information?
One.
One? Japan never recognized.
Very much. Would the delegate of the United States be ready to yield back the troops to America and therefore enforce another demilitarized zone?
The whole point of the demilitarized zone is that people outside the demilitarized zones are able to live in peace, and through that there's no war anymore, so yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Delegate. Are there any more points of information in the House? Okay, seeing as there are none, we suggest that you yield the floor back to the chair. I yield it. Okay, thanks. Just say when you're done with your speech, just say I yield it. So I have the floor again. Okay. Is there anyone else wanting to speak in favor of this clause as a whole? Points A and B.
Motion to move into time against.
Do I hear any seconds?
Second.
Second.
Okay, we are now in time against on the parts A and B of this clause as a whole. Does anyone wish to speak against this clause?
Motion to move into voting procedure.
Second.
We've now we are currently entertaining an amendment handed in by Australia on the current resolution. Sollen wir das nehmen? Okay. And the delegate of Australia suggests that we will establish a demilitarized zone, DMZ, along the 17th parallel protected and controlled by the UN Blue Helmet troops. Great amendment, yeah. Okay.
That's already part of the mandates the deployment of an international peacekeeping force. That is Blue Helmet troops.
Which one is it?
With establishing, that's the whole 6th clause.
Yeah.
Okay, seeing as this is basically all a part of the clause as a whole, the amendment will not be entertained. Do I now have any seconds to move into voting? Any motions to move into voting? Okay, great. We will now be moving into voting procedure on the parts A and B of this clause as a whole.
Motion to move into procedure on the clause as a whole, with all subsidiary clauses.
Okay, that will be granted. We will now be moving. Does now anyone want to speak in favor or against this clause as a whole, including A, B, C, and D?
I agree with everything.
Okay, great. Then we will. Soviet Union.
I want to speak against B.
Yeah, that's fine.
Has a question to the writer of this resolution to France. When you say that by disarming these irregular units, do you mean the North or the South or both?
Any irregular units that...
Stand up.
Oh, is the delegate allowed to answer directly?
Yeah.
Well, the delegate means by this that any irregular units operated with or without the sanction of either government of Vietnam, of the respective parts of Vietnam, shall be disarmed so that only the official national army units remain, therefore making the proxy or guerrilla war in Vietnam obsolete and taking away the initiative from non-governmentally sanctioned organizations carrying out the attacks.
And how does the delegate wants to guarantee both sides of the U.S. Army and the Soviet Union, but also the Vietnam, that this is possible and there are not still groups that are not attacked because they have more pressure on it?
Well, can the delegate of France, could the chairs ask the delegate of the Soviet Union to rephrase their question?
Could the delegate of the Soviet Union please rephrase their question?
Sure. So the question is, the delegate of France wants to get rid of these irregular units. But how does he want to accomplish that?
The aim is that by the military pressure applied on the units themselves by the Blue Helmet troops and also on the government through international sanctions, the respective governments, these units shall comply in their own dissolution.
But the France knows that these groups, the irregular groups, will feel pressure on themselves and could do things that they don't want to have that happen.
The pressure will remain on them to surrender their arms and be disbanded. Otherwise, the Blue Helmet troops shall be forced to undertake such measures as are necessary to maintain peace and stability in the region.
But you mean with the Blue Helmet group, they will fight against both sides? So against the...
If any irregular force, sanctioned or not by any Vietnamese government, does not comply with this policy, appropriate steps shall be taken by the Security Council to ensure a stability in the region.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay. Does anyone else? You can yeah. Bye. Does anyone else wish to either speak in favor or against this clause as a whole? Please raise your placards high now. Otherwise, we will be directly moving into voting procedures. Okay, seeing as there's no one wanting to entertain a speech. We will now directly. Sweden, you have recognized.
I have a question to the chair. Are we writing just about A and B? Or
Now we're discussing the whole clause. So all points A, B, C, and D. Okay. So yeah, that means it's been not passing. Secure the door. Everyone wishing to move vote in favor of this clause as a whole. Raise your placard side now. In favor.
Oh, come on, Poland, Sweden. Let's make it unanimous.
Anyone wishing?
This is what he's been
anyone wishing to vote against this clause as a whole, please raise your placard side now.
This is against.
No, I'm in front. Yeah,
Please know that abstentions are not in order when voting for subclauses or separate parts. So you would have to decide.
Just raise your placard for against.
Yeah, I'm for it.
Okay. With an overwhelming majority, this clause passes. Clapping is in order. We will now be moving into discussion on the 7th clause as a whole. We'll be setting 3 minutes reading time on this clause as a whole, as we want to encourage you guys to hand in any amendments of any sort. Thanks. So we have 3 minutes time now.
Point of parliamentary inquiry. Are there any amendments currently?
Ich darf so zu denen sein.
Wer ist das?
Zweite? Warum?
Hast du jetzt ein normales Amendment?
Ich habe aber noch nie ein Amendment geschrieben.
Ja, das
ja.
Ich habe heute auch mein erstes.
Also, das ist eigentlich abgelegt.
Ja, ja.
May the House please come to order. As we have received an amendment, but it does not not directly affecting this clause as a whole. Guys, shut up. May the House please come to order. Thanks. We will be entertaining another amendment, but it is not directly affecting the 7th clause as a whole. So we will just now be moving into voting procedures on this clause as a whole. So anyone wishing to vote in favor of this clause, raise your placards high now.
Voting in favor of this current clause. High.
High, please. With an overwhelming majority, this clause passes. Clapping is in order. Okay. We will now begin debate on the 8th clause as a whole. Anyone, the chair is setting 5 minutes in favor and 5 minutes against this amendment, this clause as a whole. Anyone wishing to speak in favor of this clause, raise your placards high now. The delegation of France, you haven't recognized. Yeah, 8.
Cher Président, chers députés,
Bonjour.
The Republic of France is convinced that this clause especially serves to underline the fact that the territorial integrity and neutrality of both Vietnamese states shall not be violated under any accord. This is by any foreign power whatsoever, regardless of ideology or geographical disposition. The Republic of France is further of the opinion that this clause especially is necessary, indispensable, one might say, to ensure that the Vietnamese question remains peaceful and stable, and does not escalate into another conflict, or the conflict we currently have. We thank all delegations for their support and compliance with this resolution, and welcome any points of information.
Are there any such points in the House? Raise your placards high now. Seeing as there are no points of information in the House, we suggest that the delegation of France yields the floor back to the chair. Great. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this clause as a whole? Raise your placards high now.
Motion to move into voting.
Time against.
Yeah. When we're in time in favor, doing a motion to move into voting procedures or into previous question actually means that we are moving into time against. So we are now in time against this clause as a whole. Does anyone wish to speak against this clause as a whole? Raise your placards high now.
Motion to move into voting procedure.
Second.
Okay, so we will now be moving into voting procedures on this clause as a whole. Yeah, the admin knows what to do. And now we'll be everyone wishing to vote in favor of this clause as a whole, raise your placards high now. With an overwhelming majority, this clause passes and will now be a part of the final resolution. Clapping is in order. Okay. We've received an amendment to to add a whole new clause to the resolution by the Soviet Union, and it reads, was denn jetzt? To sanction the US. Was? Could the Soviet Union please oppose the chair? Okay, we'll be writing up the amendment.
Questions?
Yeah, France, USA, and GDR, you have been recognized in that order.
How does the Soviet Union evaluate the gravity of the United States' alleged violation of human rights when they themselves have far from a blemishless human rights record regarding, say, vote fraud or imprisonment, illegal torture, gulags, the supersedition of the rule of law, countless other violations, flagrant and blatant violations of human rights established by the United Nations. Does the delegate of the Soviet Union not pale with shame at this allegation of the Honorable United States of America? Will you please let the delegate finish? Thank you.
Yes, Soviet Union. You are supposed to answer.
And yet you torture them.
To answer the question of France. The problem we see in this case is that the United States of America violated the human rights of another country's citizenship. This is not okay. You can't prove that. But even though you say we do it, but we are putting our own citizenship in that. But they attack another country. This is not okay.
Request to follow up.
Granted.
The delegate of the proud French Republic cannot but laugh at this humorous interpretation of human rights and the blatant hypocrisy displayed by the delegate of the Union of Socialist Soviet Republics.
So would you feel more attacked?
Communism and human rights are not compatible.
Delegates, please come to order.
She has interrupted me.
Shut up.
Soviet Union, shut up. Ask for a request for follow-up.
I am sorry, did the middle of my sentence interrupt the beginning of yours?
Okay. Do I hear a request for follow-up? You want to say something?
Please answer.
The delegate of the French Republic has heard enough of the balderdash prominently displayed by the delegate of the Soviet Union, and therefore yields his remaining question time to the laughter and derision of the General Assembly. Thank you very much.
Soviet Union, you are not allowed to answer. Does anyone else want to entertain a point of information?
Answer on that question.
No, the delegate of France. So up to anyone.
Here's to democracy.
GDR, you have been recognized, followed by the USA.
The delegation of the GDR believes that this is not relevant to the current topic we're discussing, so we would like to add an amendment to erase this clause.
The chair believes that reaching an amendment to strike this amendment would be unnecessary. Just vote against this amendment as a whole.
Oh, yeah, sure.
USA, you have been recognized.
The delegation of the USA says that we strongly agree with France as war is a action we took to limit the spread of communism, and you can't just, the Soviet Union can't just speak of violation of human rights in the present and not talk about violation of the human rights in their country in the past.
The Soviet Union should have expressed we mean is that you should get a sanction if you again attack a different country's citizenship. This is not okay.
Do I hear a request for follow-up or?
It's not about human rights in general.
Okay,
That
we would like
give a sanction to all
the
of
delegate of the
countries.
Soviet
But
Union to yield the floor back to the chair. Due to time constraints, we won't be able to receive any more speeches either in favor or against the amendment as a whole. We will directly moving into voting procedures on this clause as a whole. Yeah. Everyone wishing to vote in favor of this
Amendment
to number 9, to the second degree. Okay, maybe we'll just postpone. It would be better to postpone the discussion because we'll have lunch break in 2 minutes. Can you entertain the amendment after the lunch break and we'll talk about it later? Okay, good. So we now have lunch break and discussion is interrupted. No. The delegate of Australia wanted to entertain amendment to the second degree. So we'll talk about it after the lunch break. After the break. We have 1 minute left, okay? So just do the lunch break, then we can entertain the second amendment and move further on with any more amendments.
When do we have to be back?
First, you need these lunch cards to get any food.